havoc, and it's a indication that a lot of these issues are about fraud and contractors who are unscrupulous and taking advantage of everybody. And I wanted to thank you for what you've done to bring this guy to justice, because that's so very important. So thank you very much for that.
Can I just be
Yes,
clear?
sir.
I'm just a messenger. The people did all the hard work, people at this table, now my investigators and the DAs that are out there. So yeah, I'm sure I heard everybody here, that's for all of them. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So E3 is now Fortify. Everything is the same besides the name. And we do actually have a new CEO as well, and his name is Chris Nard. And Chris's comment to the team when he first came on is that his number one goal is to make sure that PACE is safe for everybody. And that is our direction. So we welcome any of the comments and concerns. Say, for example, you want to say that we treat our clients like criminals. We would welcome to have those types of comments. We can actually have meaningful comments around that and meaningful discussions around that. But other than that, everything on our website should be updated, and the same, all their staff is in place, and we are here to make sure that we can continue to help make the PACE safer. Thank you.
Are there any questions on?
I have a question on that for DBO. And when you have a change in name like that, do you create a new registration or license process? I'm just thinking about some of the customers who may have been last year to this year. We're going to now have them put in the portal. They actually had PACE in the portal already. Now they'll be referring to your registration. What will you do to the formerly E3 system? Will you just, have E3/Fortify? How will you deal with that transition?
On our website, you might have seen the list of licensees, and we do have that it's formerly E3, and the DBA is currently there, so the public could identify. The same license remains in effect for this particular change, because it's a name change, and it's not a sale or ownership change.
Right,
Right.
I mean, the license number is the same. They applied for the name change. We were informed of that prior to, this meeting. So, I mean, there was an application.
So all the assessments that were flown under E3 were still with CAFA, and now the new ones will be with Fortify under CAFA. So CAFA does have their application for we had to reapply with the change of the name.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I was just wondering in terms of tracking for all of our systems of how that may be more seamless, so.
Okay.
We'll try to do the same.
Yes, that's important, and we'll make sure we track it and notify everyone of the changes. Yes.
Okay, I had one other person on the line that had a question. Sparky Abraham, do you still have a question? Sorry, it took us a while.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just going back to the data gathering, I appreciate all the data gathering, especially. I had a question about the default and delinquency data, which, and I'm sorry, I'm calling from Bethesda Legal Services in Los Angeles, about the default and delinquency data.
Default and delinquency.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
You got it? Yeah, so, the vast majority of our clients who have PACE also have mortgages, and so they almost never become delinquent or default on their PACE assessments because their mortgage servicers pick them up. And so I was wondering, is DBO or is anyone else tracking mortgage defaults or foreclosures post-PACE?
Yeah, we haven't added that. We licensed some mortgage lenders and servicers, and they report annually, and we have discussed whether there's an opportunity there for more transparency on what they're seeing regarding the PACE financing. We only have a small fraction of the market, but still I think we might have 40%. A lot of it is federally regulated, so we don't see all of the mortgage servicing market. There is also, of course, CATFA, the State Treasurer's Program, where mortgage companies can apply for any losses related to PACE, but I don't think there's been any claims there yet, so that's not a good marker either. But we are aware that the information being gathered, it leaves gaps, and there is not we haven't found a mechanism to fill that in yet.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like a good idea for additional data gathering. So we need to wrap up. I just wanted to make sure we have our next steps.
Can I just do my last comment?
Yes.
So, 2017, when I started my job with the foundation, I never realized that I was gonna be meeting all these great people who work for the state. From the original 23 families that that I started with and started to investigate what was going on, I'm happy to say that the families that were helped by E3, they could breathe now, and they're very happy and they're very grateful that we were able to make this task force and help them save their homes. They're still waiting for interconnection and all that, like make sure that there are all that other NEM stuff and all that, right? But then the rest of the families that we're still stuck with the solar panels on top of the houses, and also the ones that we got with E3, we still would like to see some form of a document that says, here, that's yours. If you want to take them and throw them away, you can, or that no one could just come and show up and sell them. And you know what? The state told us that we could take these panels off your house because you were frauded. If there's some sort of a document that they could have that says, you know, this is now your panels, get rid of them, or whatever you could do with them. So we need some kind of documentation. I know with the E3 files, I don't know if just when they received the compensation, if that was enough, or do they need some kind of receipt for like a
Yeah,
paper
I didn't know she had
saying-
an E3 question. He left.
Yeah. So,
We'll
but,
have to work on
and, you know, I think that's great. That I understand business, marketing, and now Fortify, you know, it was very, we went like 3 or 4 times late. No, well, we don't need Fortify, we need E3, right? So it wasn't really clear on the website or on when we were calling until we told them, please tell me, are you E3 or not? And they're like, no, we're Fortified. So, I mean, it's just, you know, entry-level workers, you know. I understand. I told them, look, it's not about you, it's about, we need to see if you can help us with this, because this is what's on the, written down on the tax bill. So, you know, renaming, rebranding, that's for marketing reasons, but, you know, it's not user-friendly for the consumers that have been affected. So if we could just find a way also, other than the restitution, is how to give them like a Bill of Rights or something, like, here, this is, you know, a lot of them want to get rid of them, they don't want nothing to do with it, but we could get some sort of documentation for them.
Just on comment what you said, I was told by E3 via email that them
Okay.
releasing the property lien, that releases the loan and that ends everything. I was told by someone from E3 when I emailed asking about the same thing. They responded saying that releasing the property lien, removing the property lien, that would suffice to say that they were no longer responsible for anything as far as owing anything to E3.
Right. I guess the problem is when there's multiple, if it's not just E3 that had claim to it. So we need people like you to be the kind of the brain, the advocate who understands the whole the whole network of issues. But yes, that is my understanding as well. So, but I you know, I've been working with some of the other financiers, and they on a specific case, and I asked probably 6 times for a letter proving that their debt was forgiven, and they finally got it. And I know Josh and a lot of us worked on that case, and they told me that is not standard operating procedure. They don't normally do that, but they did it in this one specific case because we asked them to. So normally they will just forgive the debt and never tell the person in writing.
But Wayside did send me something.
Right. But they don't normally do that. So I'm just saying that is an interesting thing we've learned, that it's not standard operating procedure to verify that your debt has been forgiven. So, yeah, so we have some to do. So the to-dos, yeah, are definitely the next steps. I know that I'm charged with working on. We still have a comment, you and then somebody on the phone, I believe, right?
So, And I'll be quick.
Just you?
My
Okay.
name is Leah Wiggs, and I'm with Renew Financial. I just wanted to thank the CPUC, the CSLB, and the DBO for convening here today. We want to make sure that we're continuing to have just an open dialogue with consumer advocates and that they have a direct channel to Renew Financial. I thank all of the consumer advocates who have brought any complaints to us directly. Oftentimes, that is the first time we're hearing of that complaint. So we want to make sure we're being as proactive as possible. I will be in the back, and we have a few direct channels to me and my team for any consumer advocates who wish to talk to us directly. Again, thank you.
Do we have anybody else on the phone who wanted to comment before we're done? Okay, we need to wrap it up. I just wanted to remind everybody the next steps that I know of for sure are that our working group, the complaint and tracking and monitoring working group, needs to work on the complaint coordination as well as figuring out the status of the complaints we have so that we can figure out how many are unresolved, so that we can figure out what to do with them. That's what my main priority. And we will try to coordinate with as many of you as possible. I heard of quite a few recommendations of things for the preventative education and outreach working group to work on, including language access and possibly a media campaign about various new requirements and decisions to make sure everybody's aware, especially home improvement salespeople. Anything else?
Yeah, I just heard a few more things. I think maybe they fall under the categories that you mentioned. We'll certainly get a update on how many new solar connections have took place in 2019. And we certainly track that as we go, potentially could provide those numbers on an ongoing basis in these forthcoming meetings. We'll certainly confirm with PG&E and SDG&E on the confirmation that they're uploading the contracts, and I'm sure our enforcement branch will be looking at that as well. And I think we have to do really think through this potential loophole of claims that these systems are being self-installed and trying to get ahead of that if it is becoming a way for folks to get around this. We also received specific requests on what the timeline would be for our attestation sheet and the portal format, so we'll look into the timeline for that. And I think the request on, having the Spanish and other non-English folks, for particularly the CSLB, by phone to be able to assess if their contractor's license and their HIS person is registered as well. There was a lot of good suggestions. I particularly would like to work on the outreach and coordination to the county assessors. I know that continues to be a lack of knowledge, and to get them up to speed on the latest PACE regulations in particular. I know we've been doing some work with some of our other projects at the PUC with the CSAC, so happy to help coordinate something with them and their county assessor subcommittee of sorts that they have. We'll confirm if that our folks are tracking at CAT and our enforcement folks and our consumer folks are tracking that name change of E3 to Fortify because of some of the confusion that is inevitably going to cause. And then, looking at these recommendations of the gentleman from Los Angeles that mentioned our tracking of the mortgage defaults post PACE, those are types of recommendations that we'd like to continue to hear and think through. And then finally, this recommendation on a letter that we could get from E3 and other PACE providers and potentially other lenders as well on really closing out that the debt has been forgiven and that the panels are now owned by the homeowner. And so we'd like to follow up with that as well. Did I miss anything?
No, that was very thorough. The only thing I would add is to create a database of who's out there selling these solar projects, whether they're registered or not, and can we establish a webinar or some outreach to them in English and Spanish, mirrored after our contractor workshops, which are done in English and Spanish.
Well, as long, if they're getting interconnection, they're in our interconnection portal, and so, but they should have a license number in there. So we will, and we'll be discussing that later today in our internal conversations. But thank you, everybody, for being here. I apologize for going 10 minutes over, but we did a pretty good job of staying on time. Thank you.